Given that the topics debated today are related to national security, how would you broadly describe Poland's overarching approach to security?
We have many similarities with Romania regarding the national security approach, and we are very similar since we joined NATO. Poland joined NATO 5 years earlier than Romania, but then we cooperated as much as possible to have a common view on current issues. But I would say that Poland made some mistakes in recent years, so Romania now is in the lead of approach to the right thinking about national security. The main topic of each discussion in national security should be a kind of agreement, a consensus between the political parties about national security. And I believe that, and I strongly believe that in Poland we don't have nowadays such a consensus between the major political parties. We have too much debates, we have too much discussions, and that's to the, I would say that it's detrimental to the national security.
Which would be the common threats against both Romania and Poland, and how could this be better addressed in terms of national security?
Of course, first of all, we strongly believe that the common threat is from the east. It's the way that Russia is behaving since at least 2008, from the time of aggression against Georgia, and then we had the same aggression on Ukraine. So we strongly believe that this is the outside threat which could be in common. But at the same time, what I said before, we have to be very clear about our national discussion, and we have to find the consensus, the bipartisan approach from political parties. That's exactly what Russia is thinking and counting, that internal discussion within our countries will be so dynamic that they can gain some advantages of that. Sometimes Mr. Putin can sit on the chair, put his feet on the desk, and wait what happens in our country. How politicians can discuss the issue, can quarrel, can argument between them. So that's why we have to have the professional approach and to listen as much as possible to professionals. Not only to military, not only to generals, but to those who have experience in this matter for last 30 years after the communist time failed. So this is the major approach for how to address the national security.
Why do you think that despite the increased investments in national security, there's a persistent feeling of insecurity in Central and Eastern Europe?
You mean the
even if we increase a lot in national security, there's still a feeling of insecurity.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is the interesting discussion. We always say that the budget, that's a NATO target, should be 2%. Yes. So this is like a mantra, like a myth. But we know that 2% of Romanian GDP, 2% of Polish GDP is not the same of 2% or even 1.5% of German GDP. Yes. So I would prefer to have 1.5 of German GDP for the national defense than 2% of Poland's GDP. So this is the problem, and it's never enough. In terms of money, in terms of wise spending and wise procurement of our equipment from many nations. And one point, we have to invest into our national system, national industry, as much as possible, but this is very tricky and not easy task to do.
Now getting back to Russia, how do you see Russia's latest actions in the Black Sea? Do you think Russia is trying to increase its control in this region?
Russia is using every tool to destabilize each region, and no doubt about that, Romania is one of those regions, and Black Sea surrounding, including Ukraine, of course, Turkey, which strongly cooperates nowadays with Russia, is really the region that they would like to destabilize and to see, I would say, the frozen conflicts to be awakened. So, like you have some national issues within the nation, Turkey as well, maybe Poland not so much. But speaking about Black Sea region, I would say it's very dynamic region for the possibilities of eruption of the threat, and Russia is doing at best, I mean her best, to destabilize any region. Maybe not so much in terms of specific actions, but as I said, they are just putting some sticks to the places where there is a possibility of growing threat.
And how should NATO respond to such threats?
NATO is a tricky organism, and it should be really taking care of each business, of course, but it's not going to be possible. NATO, as we know, is a body where consensus is made on each issue, but it should really use the money allocated into the NATO budget for the investments into the Romanian, Polish, Lithuanian national defense systems. So I'm quite happy about NATO action for last couple years, but there is a still growing, I would say, dilemma at NATO. What happens if really one of the members is attacked, and how long does it take for NATO to act if the Article 5 is invoked?
Do you think Romania is vulnerable to cyber attacks now before the elections? Or all the time?
Each country has the elections. We have elections in Poland next Sunday, and I believe so that Russia is looking at all possibilities, including the cyber attack for each nation. Not perhaps a typical cyber attack, but to influence the elections, to have the impact on the elections, like they did, of course, on a different scale in United States in 2016. So this is, as you rightly mentioned, this is a current, I mean, the steady approach of Russia, that they try to use some groups to influence the current situation in your country, in Poland, and other countries of Central Eastern Europe.